pretty interesting. So, but talk to us about like what are the actual applications? Like, is this going to be the future of all transactions?
Yeah.
You know, like what's
So, well, like that's contentious and controversial in itself. And so,
you just throw him under the bus. Is that illegal?
Did I just throw
You
him?
go. Let's get him in here.
No. Like, it's super hard. So, say some people will believe that we're trying to replace currency, you know, and that within some like hardcore purists, like crypto anarchists, like in 10 years there's going to be no fiat currency, it's going to be all Bitcoin. And I don't subscribe to that at all. So I feel like very much it's kind of just like the use case Hugo described. It kind of acts as it has uses that are kind of separate from fiat currency, like because you don't have to worry about holding any one fiat currency in one particular country, or I think the most important thing is like right now in Venezuela. Do you know what's happening in Venezuela?
with the US dollar on the black market?
Yeah,
kind of stuff,
but their believer is they're going through like a period of rapid hyperinflation, and the same thing happened in like Zimbabwe in like 2008, 2009.
You can get a $1 trillion note in Zimbabwe off the street for like $2.
Yeah,
it's real.
Yeah.
Real. It's just useless. It's banana currency. It is a real
piece
note.
of shit.
Yeah.
But
piece of shit. Or for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So, but like what it means for people living there, obviously the government has somehow worked themselves into a situation where they have to keep printing money to fulfill some commitment. And so it means for the people, like you get paid at the start of one month and by the end of the month, your money's worth nothing. Which is obviously really problematic. So something like this decentralized currency, like the keyword really is decentralized, and that's the main value, is that in a situation like in Venezuela, you don't have to you don't have to worry about issuance. You don't have to worry about the government like overplaying their printing to like benefit themselves. And so because kind of no one can cheat, no one can do anything like this. So I understand like in Western society, like Bitcoin itself, I don't think there's a massive value there. Like I don't think it's going to replace the Australian dollar or the US dollar anytime soon. I think one thing that's really exciting that it's doing is encouraging everyone to like reevaluate the value of things. Fiat currency, right, is insane because we kind of just accept it. It came from the government. Government said, yeah, this is legal tender, but it's actually it's a bit of paper.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it's
not the gold standard anymore.
Exactly. So people compare that to like Bitcoin, and it's actually like really interesting to watch people's like minds flip because Bitcoin's not worth anything.
No,
but
zeros and ones.
Yeah, but like neither is fiat. Like it's just because the government said it is. So it's like trusting a decentralized network versus trusting your government. It's kind of just
money is the ultimate religion for sure. Like it's the ultimate belief system that we all run by. But the question I have with this is that Bitcoin, it's all online. You know, it's all binary, I believe, or whatever. With physical currency, that's obviously, if it's in my hand, it's liquidated completely. But if it's online, it's that understanding of like it's. I just have the feeling that like if I had $10 in my hand, that would be a stronger income or a stronger
$10
value.
Stronger $10 than $10 online.
Yeah, than having something somewhere else where it's
I know
like.
what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? So
it's kind of like having money tied up in the stock market or something.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's not tangible
100% yours.
and you can grab it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. Like,
well, the whole thing with the gold standard is the gold standard was like, if you have, we have another name. We have another thing we call the gold standard. We can't mention on
after the show.
We said some fuck up shit on this podcast.
We really
cannot mention what the gold standard is.
I'm so excited
If any listeners want to know, email me or Tommy, and we'll let you know.
I'm gonna hit up Twitter after this. Oh my god!
Anyway, so the gold standard is like. That's when your money was backed by gold. There was enough gold to back the money that was in the world, right? Am I correct in saying that? That's what the gold standard is, right? So when we went away from the gold standard, it means there was more money than basically you could get back in value of actual money in the bank. Sorry, get over it.
Lost it. It's just really funny.
So I'll stop saying gold standard, mate. But
he said gold standard in the bank. Yeah, just made a little fun.
But we've been removed from the gold standard for so long. So I mean. Yeah, I agree with you. Like the fact that if there was a huge depression worldwide, not recession but depression, like everyone would want to take the money out of the banks, and that's not possible to happen. So it's not possible. I mean, Bitcoin's the same. You can't. What do you do with ones and zeros? The question, another question is like, so I just read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Oh yeah.
and he's the PayPal founder, and with Elon Musk, one of the founders, and he talks about, like, he kept mentioning with PayPal they were trying to make a deregularized currency for the instead of the US dollar. That's what he was saying, and that's all well and good, and PayPal's great, but what they've ended up doing is they've ended up becoming just a merchant.
Yeah.
That PayPal, you pay 3 if you're a regular Joe Blow, you pay 3%. If you're a business, you can pay down to like 1 or 1.5%. But they're still they've replaced the banks. You know what I mean? They're still making just as much money as the bank. That to withdraw, use your money, send your money, you're still paying the same amount that you would use, probably more so in a lot of senses. You know what I mean? But I don't know exactly what their business model was, what they were trying to do. But Peter Thiel kept saying, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know well enough. But Peter Thiel kept saying that they were trying to do exactly what you just explained Bitcoin to be. So what's to stop? So who is the governing body of Bitcoin, Ethereum? What's the third like biggest one?
You could go like Litecoin, Ripple.
Yeah, Litecoin, Ripple. Yeah.
Maybe.
Like who runs the show there? Who makes the calls, makes decisions?
So it's like varying degrees of centralization. Yeah. So it started with Bitcoin, and interestingly, it's become almost a problem for Bitcoin. But there's no kind of, the whole idea is obviously no one owns it. Yeah. Certainly no one owns the network. The only way to change the code or update it to do anything is to get consensus from everyone. So you imagine if we're all running the same program and we want to kind of upgrade it to maybe do some extra thing, we all have to update our programs. So you really have to get the whole world, or at least a greater portion of the world, to agree, okay, this is what we're doing and this is how we upgrade. And so why that's become a problem for Bitcoin is it's very hard then for them to progress, because you have different people with different ideas about how you should scale this. How do we get more transactions per second? How do we get more users? And when people disagree, of course, you can never get the network to move forward in like the best technological way. So then if you look at something like Ethereum has like a very different model. And so they have this thing called the Ethereum Foundation. And it's kind of like a centralized entity that really controls the development. They say when the forks are going to be, and fork is like, like an upgrade of the code. And yeah, so it completely, they all have like different ways of handling that. The actual network itself cannot be messed with, but the kind of the program that runs can be like slowly upgraded by gradually getting everyone to agree to some changes, if that makes sense.
So it's completely democratized.
Yeah, completely democratized. Like, people would argue that things like Ethereum are too centralized. They're very much reliant on some great geniuses at the very top of them. But for the most part, like they're becoming more and more democratized. And like, I think like some coins now will have like multiple development teams. They might have like 4 development teams that all push code. They check each other's code. They like gradually kind of work together, but as separate teams. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how will it change the way that we do business and money in the future? I feel like, and obviously I know nothing, but I feel like from what you were telling me about, you can write a certain block that'll be in there that'll be like, hey, Tom buys an apple from Bill. Use that block. There's no middleman, no transaction fee, no whatever. You actually probably pay way closer to the price for what an apple costs compared to going through Woolworths, as that example. A real estate, again, if you can take out, well, I mean, you have to have people that are marketing your house to sell your house. You're not going to just walk up to a bloke and, so there's that side of it. Yeah. But there's, how can it not, if it's so good in so many ways for like transparency, for lack of fees, for,
how do you guys make any money off it then if there's like little to no middleman fee?
Yeah, good. Like, so, I mean, firstly, ideally, there should be a little to no middleman fee. So there should be some fee that the developers do get. But also, so how a lot of these projects are funded, they have like interesting governance models. So like the community votes, say, obviously, I work for Stratus. The community might vote, hey, this is something that's great for Stratus. This is going to increase our transactions per second. This is going to allow us to have like more functionality. And people will pull money towards it, especially people who got in early and maybe they're like whales in that particular cryptocurrency. So yeah, you have these like really interesting governance models where people can start getting paid in a more, it's kind of like social way, like rather than like you don't have to take a fee off every contract or whatever. It's like you crowdfund, be like, hey, this is something I'm going to do. It's going to increase value for everyone.
Yep.
If you can raise enough money, then yeah, you can go and do it.
That makes sense.
So,
I definitely get that. Yeah. And then so if we relate this back to you, what's your current like what are you actually working towards? What are your objectives in the years to come with what you're doing?
Yeah, cool.
I'm trying to like really get my head around it. It's really tough.
So fun.
Yeah.
How did you even figure it out?
Well, like I'd love to do a better. I feel like I should do a better job of explaining it, but it is super tough.
It's not your fault.
you,
So
no.
it's puny brain, mate.
Dumb as shit. Yeah.
So
Still thinking about the gold standard.
Dick. I'm going to read my thoughts, boy.
I can't wait for this. So for myself, it's because I had exactly the same problem, and so there's like a high barrier to entry there, and this barrier to entry exists when you want to buy crypto. It exists like when you want to learn about what's happening, and
Massive.
even more when you're a developer and you're trying to learn how we get involved here. It's impossible. I found it like next to impossible. I ended up I was super lucky. I got kind of recruited and taken through this like academy where they because they desperately needed developers in the space, and so I learned a ton there. But so what my whole perspective now looking at the scene, especially in regards to smart contracts, is I want to make this as easy as possible for like developers all over the world. So you imagine you even have like a company like maybe Microsoft, maybe like some local development team here has a bunch of developers and they want to start getting involved in blockchain. Either they can go and learn a whole bunch of like new tools, new languages. They can maybe spend months learning all of this knowledge and stuff, or they can come to like hopefully our platform Stratus, where we're using like existing programming languages, existing tools.
Yep.
And so that's exactly where I am right now. It's trying to reduce that barrier to entry so that developers can start building cooler contracts. So like the Apple thing we mentioned earlier, or you can replace like whoever like the public housing deed or something like this. That's kind of where I'm coming at right now.
Okay.
So with smart contracts, so I'm just, again, like Tommy said, trying to get my head around it while you're explaining it. So with smart contracts, for example, when is that ever going to be actually a usable thing to a degree? That example for the best case is the example of the Apple and the Apple. Like I'm not, we don't have local. Hey, I'm just going down to Doc's Apple store. To buy an apple. Hey, Tommy, you got that blockchain? Oh, cool, we're already on the blockchain. Here's an apple for an apple. And then with the real estate example, it's another good one. But then again, like, how is it actually usable in the real world? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. So, firstly, the Apple thing's maybe not like a great example of a real thing in the real world because it's just too easy. Like, if you go down to Woolies, I'm happy to pay like a greengrocer to buy an apple. That's not like the level of corruption and transparency doesn't need to be massive there as long as I can buy my apple.
Everyone needs vitamin C.
Exactly.
Apple a day, they say.
Yeah.
What do they say about that?
Gets a gold standard.
So I think more important cases are things like any kind of decentralized marketplace where people are buying and selling. Say Airbnb, Uber are like great examples of this. I like Uber is a great example right now because it's just, to me, Uber feels slightly like they need to be more transparent. Like, when does it surge? At what ratio of like riders to drivers does it surge? Or is there just like a board of people that decided, in Melbourne, it's a Saturday, let's surge, we could make more money. And like, obviously they're then going and spending a whole bunch of money building out their brand and stuff like. So I think in terms of like real applications, screw the Apple. Like we're going for like Uber or something. And then there's a whole range of problems we still need to fix. And this is where the public hype has gotten so much. The price has risen so much. There's billions of dollars going around. But the reality is, these like Bitcoin now can handle like 6 transactions a second. Okay, right. And you compare that to like Visa.
That's not much at all.
Because Visa's average, and it's not a great comparison, but Visa's average is 2,000 a second.
Yeah.
And they can get up to say 60,000 in like a Christmas period or something. So, and this is like, it's a hard problem to solve. It's not something we can solve tomorrow. And so it's going to take potentially years. I mean, hopefully within 2 to 5 years, we'll have some really solid scaling solutions so that we can have situations where we're processing many, many things a second and we can start running real applications like Uber. And so the whole idea then would, once we fix like usability as well, because if you've ever tried to buy or sell cryptocurrency right now, you're probably grabbing like an address, copying it and pasting it, putting it in some wallet. You have to download these tools. Maybe you have stuff on your phone, like confirm. Like it's way too complicated, right? We need like more levels of abstraction and more usability so that when you interact with it, it'll feel like you're interacting with the internet, right? It shouldn't feel like a separate thing.
No.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're like actually pretty far off now, but people don't think about that. They just buy it and the price goes up.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.